Welcome to Learn English Speaking. Let's Talk Stories. Here we bring you amazing stories to improve your English fluency. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more exciting lessons. Let's learn together.
Chapter 1 Rasendils and Elfbergs.
When are you going to do something, Rudolph?
My sister-in-law asked me one day. What do you mean, Rose?
When are you going to find some work?
Work? I replied. I don't need to work. I'm a Rasendil. My family is one of the best in England. I'm rich. I don't need to do anything.
Your brother works.
Rose reminded me crossly.
He works very hard.
Just at that moment, my brother Robert came into the room. He looked at his wife. He could see that she was angry about something.
What's wrong, dear?
He asked. Rose is angry because I don't do anything, I explained. I told her I don't need to work. We Rasendils don't need to do anything. I looked at my sister-in-law again. She was looking at my red hair. Perhaps she's also angry because I've got red hair, I joked. Rose blushed.
Don't be silly,
she told me.
That's not your fault. But all the same,
She went on.
your red hair does remind people of that story about the Rasendils. It's a pity.
Robert smiled at me.
Of course, it's not his fault.
He said cheerfully.
He's got the nose as well.
He added thoughtfully. I like my nose and I like my hair, I told them. I turned to look at the picture of Countess Amelia on the wall. Rose saw where I was looking. She became angry again.
That picture.
She complained to Robert.
People will never forget the story if you don't take that picture down.
People will never forget the story while Rudolph's here.
Robert said.
Look at his red hair and that nose.
Then I decided to annoy Rose a little. Actually, I said, I like being an Elfberg.
Rudolph!
Rose cried.
How can you say that?
I'm sure you want to know why Rose was so angry about my red hair and my nose. I'll tell you the whole story. We Rasendils are a very old family. Old families have scandals, and we have a very interesting one. It all happened a long time ago, in 1733. The young Prince of Ruritania came to England that year. Prince Rudolph Elfberg was a tall man, and he had red hair and a long nose. He was a dashing figure and was popular everywhere he went. He was a good linguist, he could ride well, and he was an excellent marksman and swordsman. The prince stayed in England for a long time, and then something strange happened. One day he fought a duel with an Englishman. The Englishman's name was James Rasendil. Rasendil wounded the prince. The prince was not badly hurt, but he returned to Ruritania after the duel. A few months later, James Rasendil died. His wife, the Countess Amelia, had a son who was born after Rasendil's death. The baby looked exactly like Prince Elfberg. He had red hair and a long nose. Now everybody understood why Rasendil and the prince had fought a duel. Ever since that time, there have always been some Rasendils who have red hair and long noses. We call them Elfberg Rasendils. I'm an Elfberg Rasendil myself, you see. Rose did not like the old story of Countess Amelia and the Prince of Ruritania. It embarrassed her, almost as much as my Elfberg features embarrassed her. She thought that my features showed the weakness of character and the uselessness of my life. However, I thought that I had learnt quite a lot. I spoke fluent German, my French was very good, and my Italian was acceptable. I was good enough with a pistol, but not excellent. I could also ride any horse you gave me. I started to think about Ruritania over the next few days. I thought about Countess Emilia and the prince. It was a romantic story. I knew that the old king was dead. His son, another Prince Rudolph, was going to be the next king. I decided to visit Ruritania. I wanted to see the coronation of the young Prince Rudolph. I did not tell my brother Robert of my plan to visit Ruritania. I told him I was going to the Tyrol for a short holiday. I was very excited when I left England. I did not know that I was going on a great adventure. The greatest adventure of my life. Chapter 2. The Journey to Ruritania. I decided to stay in Paris for a night on my way to Ruritania. Paris is a lively city, and I enjoyed myself a lot. I spent the evening with 2 friends. One of them, George, worked in the British Embassy. We were 3 young men, and we talked about the beautiful women in Paris. Somebody mentioned Antoinette de Maubant. "I've heard of her," I said excitedly. "She's a famous beauty. What does she look like?"
She's the most wonderful woman in Paris.
George told me.
You won't see her, I'm afraid.
He added.
She's leaving Paris tonight.
He spoke quietly now.
The Duke of Strelsau visited her in Paris,
he said. "Really?" I replied. "I wonder where she's going." I knew that the Duke of Strelsau was the half-brother of Prince Rudolph of Ruritania. Perhaps Antoinette de Maubant was going to Ruritania as well. George went to the railway station with me the next day. I did not tell him I was travelling to Ruritania because I did not want anyone to know. I told him I was going to Dresden. There was a smartly dressed lady on the platform when we arrived.
"Excuse me, Rudolph,"
he said.
"I know that lady. I'll just go and say hello to her. I won't be long."
He went to talk to the lady. He was smiling when he came back.
"You're in luck,"
he joked.
"That's Antoinette de Maubant, and she's travelling on your train. She's going to Dresden as well."
I did not see Antoinette de Maubant again until the train arrived at Dresden. I got off the train there because I wanted to take the train for Ruritania. Then I saw her. Antoinette de Maubant got on the same train as me. She was travelling to Ruritania as well. Perhaps she was going to visit the Duke of Strelsau. As soon as we reached the Ruritanian border, I went to buy some newspapers, and the officer in charge of the customs house gave me such a stare that I was surer than ever of my resemblance to the Elfbergs. The train journey to Ruritania was a long one. I read some of the Ruritanian newspapers during the journey. There were lots of articles about Prince Rudolph and the coronation. The capital city, Strelsau, was full of people who wanted to see the ceremony. I did not want to stay in a crowded hotel, so I decided not to go to Strelsau. There is a little town called Zenda, about 50 miles from the capital. I decided to stay there until the day of the coronation. "I can travel into Strelsau every day on the train," I said to myself. "I can come back to Zenda every night. It's not very far." I got off the train at Zenda. There was a good hotel in the town. I was comfortable there. There was a lot of excitement in Zenda because of the coronation. Everybody was talking about Prince Rudolph and his half-brother, the Duke of Strelsau. I learned that the Duke owned the castle in Zenda. Everybody spoke very well about the Duke. They made less friendly remarks about Prince Rudolph. He had spent a long time away from the country, and very few people even knew what he looked like. I heard that he had also shaved off his famous beard, which made it even more difficult for people to recognize him. The old lady who owned the hotel was excited about the coronation, like everybody else.
Prince Rudolph is here in Zenda,
she told me.
He's staying near the castle. He'll travel from Zenda to Strelsau on the day of the coronation.
Suddenly, she looked very serious.
It's a pity,
she told me.
The Duke's a good man. He'd be a very good king for Ruritania. Prince Rudolph's...
Mother!
One of the old lady's daughters cried. She was angry.
The Duke's a bad man. You know that. I want Prince Rudolph to be king. He's a real Elfberg, with red hair and a long nose.
Are the prince and the duke good friends? I asked the old lady.
No,
the old lady's daughter said.
They hate each other, really. They're both in love with the same girl, Princess Flavia.
Be quiet,
the old lady commanded her. She turned to me with a smile.
You mustn't take what she says seriously, sir,
she told me.
The Duke and the Prince are the best friends. The Duke is helping the Prince to prepare for the coronation.
You know that's not true,
the old lady's daughter interrupted once again.
The Duke hates Prince Rudolph. Black Michael...
The door of the room opened, and a man came in. He looked very angrily at the girl.
I've told you before not to call him Black Michael,
he shouted angrily.
He's the Duke of Strelsau.
The man saw me in the room now, and he was suddenly silent. He seemed shocked for a moment. The old lady explained who I was.
This is Mr. Rasendil,
she said.
He's come from England to see the prince's coronation.
She turned politely to me.
This is Johann,
she said.
He works for the Duke of Strelsau.
The man was still silent. He stared at me in a very strange way. I did not understand what was troubling him. The girl began to laugh.
You've got red hair, sir,
she said to me.
He doesn't like red hair. It's the prince's colour, you see.
The man laughed.
I'm sorry, sir,
he said.
You look...
He was silent again, and then he said,
You surprised me. I didn't know anyone was staying in the hotel.
Chapter 3. The Cousins Rudolph. I went for a walk in the forest the next morning. I walked near the castle. The old part was very imposing and still in good condition. I noticed that it stood on an island, and there was a moat full of water surrounding it. The water looked deep and cold. On the other side of the moat there was an elegant, modern chateau, the country home of the Duke of Strelsau. I walked for a long time. I decided to lie down and rest for a while. I fell asleep in the forest. I dreamt I was married to Princess Flavia, and we lived in the castle of Zenda. I was about to kiss the princess when I heard someone say,
This man looks just like the prince, except for his beard.
I opened my eyes and saw two men looking at me with great curiosity. Then the other man said,
He's the same height as the prince as well. Really, it's very odd.
I stood up now and looked at the two men. One of them was quite an old man. He had a square head and a grey moustache, and he looked serious. The other one was young. He had dark skin, and he seemed more friendly than the older man. The young man smiled at me.
What's your name?
He asked politely. Rasendil, I told him. Rudolph Rasendil.
I'm Fritz von Thalenheim,
he said. He pointed at the older man.
And this is Colonel Sapt,
he told me.
We work for the prince.
Colonel Sapt smiled at me now.
So you're a Rasendil,
he said happily.
You know the old story about the Prince of Ruritania and the Countess Amelia, I suppose?
I smiled as well. I know the story very well, I told him. there was a noise behind some trees, and a man began to shout.
Fritz! Fritz! Where are you? It's the prince,
Fritz von Tarlenheim said.
He's calling me.
Now the man came forward. I looked at him in great surprise. He looked at me in great surprise. Prince Rudolph of Ruritania and Rudolph Rasendil looked the same, except for my beard. I studied the prince carefully. The likeness was remarkable. He was a little shorter than me, and his face was a little fatter than mine. I also noticed that his mouth did not look as determined as mine. But for all that, we were nearly identical. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the prince turned to Fritz and Colonel Sapt. Colonel Sapt whispered something in the prince's ear. The prince listened carefully, and then he began to smile. Suddenly, he laughed very loudly.
Ha, 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 ha! We're cousins,
He said to me.
I'm very pleased to know you, cousin.
He added,
Come and dine with me tonight. We'll talk of old times together. And you will stay at my house tonight, of course.
Colonel Sapt stepped forward to speak to the prince again. He spoke seriously.
The coronation is tomorrow morning, sir,
He said,
There is a lot to do before then. We have a lot of things to talk about. It's not the evening for a dinner with Mr. Rasendil.
Prince Rudolph looked angrily at Colonel Sapt. He did not seem pleased with the colonel's advice.
I want to dine with Mr. Rasendil,
He said crossly.
I want to drink wine with him. He's my cousin, and I don't meet a new cousin every day.
That is how I came to dine with Prince Rudolph. We ate well, and we drank a lot of wine. Prince Rudolph drank more wine than anyone else. He was very happy because of the wine. It was a long dinner. I thought the evening was finished, but I was wrong. The servant, Joseph, brought another bottle of wine to the table.
This bottle comes from the Duke of Strelsau.
He told Prince Rudolph.
He told me to give you this message. Drink this wine because you love me. That's what he told me to say, sir.
What a good brother Michael is.
Prince Rudolph cried joyfully.
I'll certainly drink his wine.
He reached for the bottle and poured a glass of the wine. He drank the glass quickly. Then he put his head on the table and fell asleep. Nobody else touched the wine from the Duke of Strelsau. I looked at Fritz von Tarlenheim and Colonel Sapt. I did not say anything, but the Prince of Ruritania was a disappointment to me. He seemed a selfish young man who was too fond of wine. I remember nothing else about that evening. I, too, had drunk too much wine. I fell asleep at the table. Chapter 4. The Game Begins. I woke suddenly the next morning. Someone had thrown water over me. I opened my eyes angrily and looked up at Fritz and the Colonel. That wasn't a good joke, I said angrily.
Be quiet!
Colonel Sapt ordered angrily.
We had to wake you up. There's something wrong.
He pointed to the floor. The prince was lying there.
The prince is still sleeping. We've tried to wake him, but we can't.
We think the Duke put something in that bottle of wine,
Fritz explained.
Something that will make the prince sleep all day.
It's a crisis for Ruritania,
Colonel Sapt said.
The coronation is this morning. If Prince Rudolph does not go to Strelsau today, he'll never be king.
What do you mean? I asked.
The Duke wants to be king,
Colonel Sapt told me.
Prince Rudolph is not popular. I think the Duke will seize the crown.
What are you going to do about it? I asked him.
There's only one chance,
Colonel Sapt explained.
The coronation is today. Prince Rudolph must go to Strelsau this morning.
But if he's asleep, I began.
You can go,
Colonel Sapt said.
You can be Prince Rudolph for the day.
Me? I cried. But that's ridiculous. I don't know how to behave like a prince. I can't pretend to be the Prince of Ruritania.
You look like the prince, except for your beard,
Colonel Sapt said slowly.
You can do it, Rasendil. I know you can.
I did not say anything.
If you don't do it, the Duke will be the next king of Ruritania.
Colonel Sapt went on.
And he'll kill Prince Rudolph.
Then I decided. I was young, and I liked excitement and adventure. Very well, I told the Colonel. I'll help you. I'll be the prince for a day.
Well done,
the Colonel cried excitedly. He shook my hand.
There's a lot to do. Let's make a start.
I got up and began to shave off my beard, while the Colonel told me his plan.
I'll hide the prince in the wine cellar,
he said excitedly.
Then we all go to Strelsau together to the coronation, and you become king. Then we come back to Zenda. We wake the real king. He goes back to Strelsau with us the next day. And you, Mr. Rasendil, you leave Ruritania very secretly.
He paused. Then he clapped his hands together.
Yes, it's a good plan,
he cried. The Colonel picked up the prince and carried him to the door. He was very strong. He opened the door suddenly and then stopped. Johann's mother was standing on the other side of the door.
Was she listening?
Fritz asked quickly.
I'll make sure she's quiet,
the Colonel said grimly. The Colonel carried the prince into the wine cellar. Then he came upstairs again and seized hold of Johann's mother. He put a handkerchief in her mouth and tied her up. Then he carried her down to a coal cellar and locked her in. Then Colonel Sapt, Fritz, and I continued to make our plans.
No one will ever know,
Fritz said.
It'll work, and you'll save Ruritania from disaster, Mr. Rasendil.
All we've got to do is hide the real prince while we're all in Strelsau,
the Colonel said.
Fritz and I will do that while you're getting ready, Mr. Rasendil. Joseph will guard him while we're away.
Colonel Sapt hurried out of the room to make all the arrangements with the servant. Chapter 5. Coronation of a King. It was now 6 o'clock in the morning. I dressed in one of Prince Rudolph's uniforms. Colonel Sapt, Fritz, and I took our horses and rode towards Strelsau. It was a beautiful ride that early morning, and I will never forget it. The Colonel gave me advice about how to behave when we reached Strelsau. He told me about the things that Prince Rudolph liked, and the things he did not like.
Don't worry,
he said.
I'll stand next to you all the time. I'll tell you what to say.
We reached the railway station at 8 o'clock. At 9:30, we were in the capital city.
Are you frightened?
Colonel Sapt asked me. Don't worry about me, I told him. I'll manage.
I think you will,
the Colonel replied.
You're a real Elfberg, Mr. Rasendil.
When we got off the train, the people surrounded us. They were excited to see their prince in front of them. The crowds in the street cheered as we rode past. Suddenly, I looked up at one of the buildings. Antoinette de Maubon was standing in the window, watching the procession. For a moment, I was very nervous. I was sure she would recognize me and tell everyone that I was not the real prince. She did not do anything, however. Then we rode through the old part of the city. The people in this part of Strelsau did not like Prince Rudolph. They wanted his brother, the Duke of Strelsau, to be king. The Marshal made a sign to the soldiers who were riding with us. He wanted them to stay close to me. He wanted them to protect me from the crowd. I decided that a real prince would be a brave man. "Why did you tell the soldiers to ride close to me?" I asked the Marshal.
For your safety, sir.
The Marshal replied. "I'm not afraid," I told the Marshal. "I'll ride in front of the soldiers. I'm not afraid of my own people." Colonel Sapt put a hand on my arm. He did not like what I was doing. "I'll ride in front," I repeated. "Tell the soldiers to go away, Marshal." I rode out in front of the soldiers. For a few moments I felt like a real king. It was a wonderful feeling. Soon we arrived at the cathedral. It was a splendid building, and it was full of people. Everyone was wearing their best clothes for the coronation of their king. I do not remember much about the ceremony. It was long, and Colonel Sapt stood very close to me throughout it. He whispered to me all the time, telling me what to do. I saw Prince Rudolph's brother, the Duke of Strelsau, in the cathedral. He was very surprised to see me. He looked quite ill for a moment. He looked at me as if he had seen a ghost. I also saw a beautiful young woman. Colonel Sapt told me she was Princess Flavia. She was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. She had the red hair of the Elfbergs. The coronation was a great success. No one recognized that I was not the real Prince Rudolph. When it was over, Fritz, Colonel Sapt, and I went to the palace. We laughed and joked together. The day had gone well for us. I did think about the real Prince Rudolph, or King Rudolph, as he now was. I wondered what he was doing. Chapter 6. Kingship and Love. Colonel Sapt and I waited in the palace until very late that night. We talked together about the ceremony and about the Duke of Strelsau.
"He's a dangerous man,"
the colonel told me.
"but we've defeated him this time, thanks to you, Mr. Rasendil."
At last, everyone was asleep. We went outside to the stables. We found our horses and put on their saddles.
"Let's go,"
the colonel said quietly. We jumped on the horses and rode out of the palace grounds. It was exciting to ride through the sleeping city. We rode all night on our way back to Zenda. Suddenly, we heard 2 horses following us in the darkness, the Duke and one of his men. We rode on very quickly and managed to lose them at a crossroads in a forest. We arrived at Zenda very early in the morning. We went straight to the house, and there we found a terrible tragedy. At first, there seemed to be no one in the house. Then we saw some blood coming from under the locked door of the wine cellar, where we had left the king. Perhaps the king was dead. We opened the door to the room. The servant, Joseph, was lying there. He was dead. We looked everywhere for the king, but we could not find him.
"The Duke of Strelsau,"
the colonel said angrily.
"He's been here."
He pointed at the body of the servant on the floor.
"This is the Duke's work,"
he exclaimed. "But where's the king?" I asked. "Do you think the Duke has killed him too?"
"No,"
the colonel replied.
"I think the king is a prisoner in his brother's castle."
"What do we do?" I asked.
"Everything's changed now,"
the colonel said thoughtfully.
"We must change our original plan."
He thought for a moment.
"Ruritania needs her king,"
he told me.
"You will have to be the king for a while longer, Mr. Rasendil."
"You want me to go back to Strelsau?" I asked. But what about the real king? What will happen to him?
You're the only king we've got,
The colonel said grimly.
Go back to Strelsau, Mr. Rasendil. You are the king of Ruritania again.
But the Duke of Strelsau knows that I'm not the real king, I said. He knows I'm a fake.
That's true,
The colonel admitted.
He knows you're not the real king, because the real king is his prisoner in the castle here at Zenda. But the Duke can't tell anyone that you're a fake. He can't tell anyone that the real king is a prisoner, can he?
I nodded my head. The colonel was right. Do you think the king is in danger? I asked. Will the Duke kill him? Colonel Sapt looked at me very seriously for a moment.
The king's life is in great danger,
He said slowly.
The Duke has already killed once. But if he does kill the king,
He went on.
You'll have to stay here. You're an Elfberg after all.
Colonel Sapt and I went outside to our horses. We rode back to the capital. No one saw us enter the palace. The next day, the colonel and Fritz told me more about the king.
Do you remember Princess Flavia?
The colonel asked me.
She was at the Coronation.
I remembered her very well. She was the beautiful girl I had noticed in the cathedral.
The king's in love with her,
Colonel Sapt told me.
Princess Flavia is very popular with the people. Everyone hopes the king will marry her.
Fritz looked impatiently at Colonel Sapt. He was young and very loyal to the king. He always wanted to be busy, to be doing something to help the king. The older man was also very loyal to the king, but he knew how to wait, how to be patient until the time for action came.
When are we going to rescue the king?
He asked impatiently.
We can't sit here in the palace forever, Colonel.
We must be patient,
Colonel Sapt told him.
The Duke won't kill the king while Mr. Rasendil is here pretending to be the king. He'll wait and see what we do. We must wait too.
You know that some of the 6 are here in Strelsau?
Fritz asked. The colonel nodded.
Yes,
He replied.
The Duke sent them here to spy on Mr. Rasendil.
Who are the 6? I said.
They're the Duke's favourite soldiers.
Fritz told me.
They're the most dangerous men in the country, and they're very loyal to the Duke. They do everything he tells them to.
3 of them are Ruritanians.
The colonel explained.
There's also a Frenchman, a Belgian, and an Englishman. But the most dangerous of the 6 is Rupert Hentzau.
The 3 of us talked for a long time. Fritz and I wanted to do something to help the king, but Colonel Sapt told us to be patient. He said we could do nothing until we knew what the Duke was planning.
Be patient, my friends,
he said.
The time for action will come soon.
Very well, I agreed. We'll do nothing until you tell us, Colonel. But meanwhile, I'm the King of Ruritania. Let's enjoy ourselves this evening. We all went out that evening to visit Princess Flavia. Fritz told me that he was in love with one of the princess's ladies-in-waiting.
Countess Helga is very beautiful,
he said.
We'll see her when we arrive.
Princess Flavia was very happy to see me. She did not realize that I was not the real king. She seemed worried about something, though, and I asked her what was the matter.
It's your brother,
She said.
I think Michael is dangerous. Please be careful, Your Majesty.
I'm not frightened of Michael, I told her. She looked at me very seriously.
Your life is important to Ruritania,
She told me.
and to your friends as well.
She added with a tender look. I began to fall in love with Princess Flavia that evening. It was difficult for me not to tell her the truth. I wanted to tell her who I really was. But I was playing a dangerous game, and the king's life depended on me. I kept silent.